Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Leah Dunlap, and this is Oracle Live TV. I'm really excited tonight to be back with you all and share our new guest tonight. And I wanted to take a moment because I was just talking to somebody the other day in regards to purpose. And we've just finished a challenge that we're working on. And we're talking all about purpose and understanding our purpose and why we do what we do and how we can utilize that in our work. And as we were talking about it, she mentioned that she thinks that sometimes people confuse purpose with charity. And I thought, what an amazing concept, that when we think about purpose, we often think about charity. Like, a lot of charitable organizations have a purpose, have a mission. And so the confusion between perhaps what a mission is and how we go out in the world and what we do and how we create what we're doing, and of course, what our purpose is for being here in the first place. And before we go any further, I have a little confession to make, so come on over. Let me tell you something. So one of the things that I've said recently and I've been sharing, and I still really believe in, by the way, is that, we don't often understand, or we underestimate the amazing possibility of us even being, period. The people we are, you there sitting across from me and my guest and all of us, like the possibility is so slim, and it is a 1 in 400 quadrillion chance. Now, what I have to confess is I had seen that on a chart, and I had counted the zeros. And I had counted the zeros without my glasses, these glasses, which I accidentally forget to take and put on my face a lot. And in doing so, I had misquoted. So I want to be really honest. I had said it's a 4 with 27 zeros behind it. And the truth of the matter is of 1 in 400 quadrillion is a 4 with 17 zeros behind it. So still a big number, but I wanted to clarify that because it's out there and I'm like, no, it's not 27, it's 17. So if you're one of those people that saw that and said, that doesn't make sense, that's why. It was simply a oracle confusion between my eyes and my head. So keep my glasses on. So that's PSA to everybody else that's wearing glasses. And I really want you to know that part of the reason I bring that up is that this is the part where I think, just in knowing who we are, and the reason I have this show and the whole point of it is because I really believe that. I really do believe that every single one of us is here on purpose, and that the purpose for our lives is inherent in us even being here. That we were given this life on purpose to do something of purpose, right? So there's a big underpinning, right? The fabric of who we are that is meant to deliver something to the universe around us. And if I can in any way, as the Oracle, share my gift and the messages from the Oracle to help someone not only figure out what their purpose is, but also when they do, help them move all blocks out of the way so that they can just focus on delivering that message, then that's what I want to do. And honestly, that's exactly how this was created. It was created so that we could have access to the Oracle, access to amazing people doing incredible things in the world, so that they could have access to more people to hear their message and what they're up to. It is, in my hope, a win-win-win for everybody. And to make sure it's a win-win-win, those of you who've been watching for a while, it's almost been a year, guys, we're in October already, that you know that the fun part of this, right, the engagement piece is really important because it allows us to really utilize this time we have, right? It's a little box and we're, miles, maybe countries, maybe worlds away from each other right now. But right now I can offer not only our guests, but each of you the opportunity to get a message from the Oracle as well. And so with that, if you are someone who's popping on or has been here from a watch party that somebody started, thank you for coming. You can join us and join in and participate a couple of different ways. So the first way is if you have a question, right? So if you come here and you've had a question, don't wait. You can actually just put this, I'm going to post on the screen. So you can put Q&A and the question after it in the comments, and we'll do our very best tonight. We have one guest, amazing guest coming up, but we'll do our very best at the end of the show to get to as many questions as we have. And if there aren't any questions tonight, that's great. If you miss us live and you want to put a question in when you watch the replay, we'll do our best to answer those questions as well. All right. So if you want to have a question answered, Q&A and then your question. If you would like to play along and have some fun in communicating with our guest and really imprinting the messages that we're going to hear tonight, then I encourage you to also consider playing along in our insight game that we play. So the insight game is really easy. Simple, simple, simple. Hashtag insight when you hear something that's like, that's amazing, or inspiring, or I never knew that, or I am doing that tomorrow. So if you have any of those reactions to something that I say, something that the guest says, hashtag insight. And just to encourage you to have a little fun and participate and really be present tonight, we're going to be giving away a really nice little gift. Where did it go? Here we go. I'm going to try and do this without dropping these. So we have this little pen set. Now you might notice this is really funny because I have a child. If you don't know that, I do. And there were 3 pens in here, but there's only 2 right now. There will be 3 when you get it, okay? So it's a nice little pen set because, as you all know who've been watching the show, I write a gratitude list every single night. And I know that the thing I'm always needing is more pens. So not only are they sparkly and fun and beautiful and easy to use, they're really nice to write with, okay? So for those of you who are watching, thanks for watching. Share with us so we know where you're calling in from or watching from. Just put your city. And that way we can kind of keep an eye on everybody. All right, so without much further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our first guest tonight. I really love when synchronicity happens. And this show is now growing to the point where other people outside of my little bubble are starting to hear about us and saying, oh, come and check out the show, come and be on the show, come be a guest on the show. So I don't always know who we're going to have. So I'm as excited and surprised and delighted to have my guest on tonight as those of you who are watching, and some of you might be her friends that are watching and supporting her. So I think that's great too. So I love that. I love that we get to see a variety of people and we get to learn what they're up to. So my first guest tonight is Leslie Boyd, and I'm going to be bringing her on and unmuting her so we don't have a problem with that really quick. And as she does, hey, Leslie, thanks so much for being here. And once you get on, I just want you to share a little bit about yourself, what you're up to, and what do you have going on right now that you're really passionate about?
Well, thanks, Leah, so much for having me on. So if you can hear me okay. So who I am a wife, a mom. I've got 2 teenagers. I've got a bonus son that's getting married in a couple weeks. So I'm just super busy right now. I am a productivity coach, and I work with creatives. So those are, coaches, bloggers, graphic designers, people that love to create, and they can get stuck in all the planning and the creating and not enough of the implementation, right? And the doing. And I was listening, I've been following you, of course, but you were talking about purpose. And so my mission is to help women live in their purpose. But the way that I help them is through accountability, through reducing overwhelm, to actually getting them to move forward step by step by step. So they have it in them. There's the fear of success, there's limiting beliefs, the overwhelm, all those things that keep us stuck. I want to just keep them moving forward. They've got big, super big goals, but they get scared. So we just break it down, just bit by bit. And most people are starting to get ready for the holidays and Christmas. I'm amping up. I'm like, let's talk about our word of the year. Let's get our vision boards together. Let's get our goals set for January 2020. Not wait. January comes and we start to set the goals. No, let's set them now so that we can hit go on them. So that's what we're kicking off November.
I love that. And you know what's so great? The other day I was talking to someone and we were talking about it, and it's like, are you winding down? Right? Because some people think like, oh, it's fall and things are, I think that's what happened. Somebody said like, oh, it's like the year is winding down. I'm like, or are you ramping up? Like, are you ramping up for 2020, which I think is, you know, a vital piece of what you were just saying. Like, it's important to know that momentum, which is what I'm hearing, is a part of that process. So, and vision boards, I love a good vision board. I always have one at least. So tell me right now with who you're serving, when we talk about purpose for you, what is that one thing that, like, if no one else in your group brought it up, like, and you like had 5 minutes and everything's shutting down and nothing else is going to happen, you're never going to see them again, would you want them to know for sure? Like, what is that one thing, like that last thing you got to say to them, no matter what?
That they can absolutely do what it is they want to do. They just have to give themselves grace to do it in their time.
I love that. Grace. Oof, I love that word. That is one of my favorite words. And I think it's so important because I think as women and entrepreneurs and business leaders, that's not something we're often, you know, given permission to take on is grace. I think it's expected on some sides, but it's not like we're allowed to have that for ourselves, right? It's like we can give others the grace, you know, we can take care of others and hold space for others, but how often do we do that for ourselves? So tell me, that's a good follow-up question. How do you make sure that you give yourself grace?
Well, I just, if I don't meet something that I'm supposed to, you know, because I'm big on accountability, but I'm also good on being realistic. So even though, you know, I'm the teacher, I find so often that I get taught like that I'm in the middle of giving this, and I'm like, ooh, I have to take a minute. And so what I've started doing is I've started not working on Sundays. And that's huge as an entrepreneur because Sunday's the big plan day, get ready. So it forces me to have my Saturday locked up tight.
Yeah.
And so I give myself grace for not working on Sunday when I see other people saying, well, I hustle every day.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen people say, well, I work on Sunday, so I'm better. I'm a step ahead. I give myself grace knowing that that's best for me and my family to not do it.
Yeah. And just what you said, that's such a trap, right? The comparison trap, like doing this based on what someone else is doing in someone else's way and making that the litmus test for how you are doing. Like, what is your value next to someone else, right? I think that's so, one thing I think about it is that it is so detrimental to our own success, right? Because how do you get to own your own success if you're building it on someone else's, you know, platform or someone else's dream or someone else's vision? It's not yours. It's not your own. And I think that that's a really beautiful way to put it, like to give yourself grace that it's not. Yeah. And I think that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is like, if we realize how special we are, each of us, why would we hold back that way that we are, the way that we are? So Sundays are great and you spend that time. I'm curious, as you've done this work for several years now, can you look back to a person that you've worked with and seen how they've been able to kind of incorporate that? And what is the difference made in their lives by looking at how they've maybe shifted and allowed themselves some grace?
Well, one of the things, because as you know, I'm the creator of the 3-step strategy. So I have people are like, well, what is that? And I was like, we work on 3 things a day to move us forward. I mean, it's so simple, yet it's difficult sometimes, you know, in dealing with our regular to-do list and moving us forward. And I have people that I've seen, what I've done is I've given them permission. Let's do 3 things when they were trying to do 30 and getting nothing done. So I've seen people that are more relaxed, more at peace. I've seen people switch gears from what they were doing when they first came to work with me. And when I work with people on their life vision statement, and they get these aha moments, and they're like, I've had one lady that has actually was a salesperson for a publication, and she's gone on to become a franchise owner.
Mm.
She's like, I wouldn't, I did that. That was because, of you. I've seen people that work with me because they've seen me from afar. Those silent people, like, there's people out there that follow us, and we don't know until one day they say, oh my gosh, like, where have you been? So it's giving that permission and letting them go on their own pace, because that hamster wheel is tiring.
Right. Yeah. And I think I heard you were mentioning like overwhelm, right? Like that's a big piece of working in this field, is helping people with the idea of overwhelm. And I think it does come back to putting too much on your plate and not being aligned with the things that you're saying yes to, so that you're ending up with all these things that are really no's, but you're doing them anyway because you've committed to them or you feel obligated. So as you've created your system and you have this 3-step strategy, I love that you are talking about like, hey, like simplify. What brought you to do that? Like what brought you to the process of realizing we can make this simpler? How did you get to the place where you created the system?
Well, it was because of me. I'm super, super busy. So I was working a full-time job. I had small kids, and then I ran for public office.
Oh my goodness.
And I won. So running is like, I realized was the hard thing. So I served for 4 years on our local board of ed. My kids were in the 3rd and 5th grade. My husband worked, and I realized that I had to get back to basics. I remember when, the kids are born, then it's very simple. There's diapers, bottles, So as you get older, things get more complicated. We make it complicated. So I said I had to get back to what was truly important. Not everything. If we don't do certain things, the world is not going to fall apart. So the world is not going to fall apart. So I had to get back in order to feel accomplished. I'm very driven. I had to come up with, for me, it's always like I plan my week. I'm like, I look at my calendar and I say, what is it that I have to do? Right. Doctor's appointments, things. And then I look at how much time I actually have to do the additional things, and I plan the time for it.
Right.
So there's no more doing 20 hours worth of stuff in 5 hours. Sometimes you have to, but I always say not every day is a double down day.
Ooh, I like that. That's a great one. There's a hashtag insight. Not every day is a double down day. I'm writing that down myself right now. Everybody has it, because that's a golden one. So not every day is a double down day. Oh man.
And so I created it for myself.
Hard for people. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, do you think that's hard for people to let go of that drive to have everything be double down all the time?
It is, and it's hard. But what happens is, it's eventually you crash, and so then it's that all or nothing.
Right.
You'll give up because you'll say, well, this was too much. I couldn't do this. My family suffered. My life suffered. So I try to give okay, we can probably still get there. When you work when you're tired, you're not as effective all the time. You're not as effective. It takes you twice as long to do something.
That's so true. It's, there's the old adage, haste makes waste, right? Because we do things too quickly. We're going to have to either do them again or something else will suffer. So I love that you've created a framework for people to say, like, to have grace around it, to focus in on those things, like you said, that are priorities, and know that there's only a certain amount of time in a day, and that trying to cram more into it isn't going to really make that day end better. Right. Yeah. So yeah. And as you've built this business as an entrepreneur, because, many of the people watching are entrepreneurs as well, can you tell me for yourself, like, what was one of the hardest lessons that you had to learn and felt like, okay, I got it?
Well, I think for me, I thought I was going to be further along quicker. You think, oh, you go in, you're going to start making money. And I've never been money driven. But, when you're in a business, you think at some point you'll make whatever your accomplishment, your goal. Right. And I wasn't prepared at the evolution. I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set out to do it. It's like totally different. And it's not like that all the time. It's just been evolving, and it's been better. So the lesson is to be open, to listen, and go with that evolution.
I love that evolution. It does. And, that's a good point, because I think that when we talk about it taking time, and you've come from a corporate background, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I find with my corporate clients that is one of the Achilles heels. They walk away from an environment where everything is so tied to a certain amount of income per hour, per annual. Like there's that consistency and it's kind of locked together in your mind. Like if I put this many hours in, if I get all my work done, I'm going to make X, and it's all so consistent. And the biggest shift I see for them, I don't know if this is true for you, was like, okay, so I've worked 80 hours this week on my work and my business and, networking and whatever you do when you always first start out. And there's, little check, no check, something, there's a boon, and then but so it's so different. As you're getting more and more comfortable, as you said, with like kind of how things are different on this side, looking back, and for those people that are watching as entrepreneurs, like looking back, what would you wish you had told yourself, like when you took that leap and said, okay, we're going to go off and do this instead?
I would have niched down a lot quicker. Trying to serve everybody. I would have honed in on my ideal client first and foremost, because this is what I go back and I would figure out one thing I wanted to do.
Oh,
one thing, and then figure out the platform, whether it be in-person networking, whether it be one social media platform, and just focus on that one thing.
Yeah.
Not try to be all the things to all the people and do all the things. Just one
right.
thing.
I love it. And it is true, because especially when you're starting out, which is kind of like, I think counterintuitive, like you think, oh, I have to be everywhere. It's like better to focus in, better to niche, better to have a true voice that people can hear. And I say this often with my own clients and in my own groups, which is, the clearer your message, the better people are better people are able to see you, and the right people who need your message can hear you when you are clear. And when you're not, it's like, I think we're similar age, and I tell this story, and I think now I got to find a new story, because I was one of those kids who had to go dial the TV in, and sometimes we had to play with the ears and make it like, and sometimes we watch, okay, friends, everybody watching, sometimes we watched it and it was fuzzy. So we're just like, we finally got something. And so I think it's like that. Like it's like, if it's not clear, people will like move on to the next thing, not because they don't want what you have, but because they can't get it. They can't really get it clearly. And so I think speaking to that, like having that one thing, having that focus. And so here's the next question. 10 years from now, what would you tell you now? What do you think 10 years from you now, Leslie would come back and say right now?
And so this is going to be, it's going to seem kind of counterintuitive, but I would tell myself, you need to move it along. You need to elevate. You need to not be so comfortable. It's time for you to elevate. It's time for you to escalate and not be scared. Don't get comfortable.
Right.
You've got things to do. Keep it going. Don't get comfortable.
Don't get comfortable and elevate. Hashtag to elevate. Absolutely. I think that's a good one too. We're going to put that one up there for everybody. So yeah, I mean, I think that elevation, there is that, you're right. Like there's on the one side, we have like focus, not stay small, but stay contained on what you're doing. And then there is that point where you have to reach a tipping or a stretch and say, okay, now you have to take a bit of a leap. Can you tell me about a time that you had to take a big leap of faith?
I think, let's see, well, yes, when I moved here,
Okay.
I'm in North Carolina, and I'd lived in Virginia my whole life. I got married, I was 32, and I'd been there. I'd been raised there. I had my daughter, and my husband wanted to move here, and I did not want to. And I told him that, and moving here took a big leap of faith, a lot of trust, and it was the best thing that ever happened.
Yay! I love it. I mean, I guess I can say that not every leap of faith goes there, but I always think every leap of faith takes us closer to our purpose when we know where we're going, right? So again, we're tying back to the idea of having a vision for ourselves and where we're going. And if the leap of faith is pointed in that direction, I think it's always a good, even though we don't know it at the time, is a good move. So as you're looking now at where you are and what you're up to, and you come to the show, of course, which is called Oracle Live for a reason. What can the Oracle support you in? What question do you have about your next steps or your business or your audience or whatever it is that we can help you with to kind of look at and get some insights for you?
So my goal for 2020, and it just keeps coming to me, even though, I'm a goal setter, right? So I'm all about the SMART goals and, making sure they're realistic, but I'm also a bit of a dreamer. I feel like, you've got to hit it. So I have this number, and I want to know if I'm on the money or if I'm thinking small, if I'm thinking too big, and only because I don't know that you can ever think too big, but I like to be realistic too. It's that goal, that stretch, but so I really want to touch 1,000 lives, women's lives next year, and through a community. So, I'm thinking, of course, building an online community that leads to an in-person community. I've got a plan for a 2021 retreat, actual cruise that I actually have blocked. And so there's 1,000 women.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm going to give the answer that's coming through, which is it depends, because on one side, the question is 1,000 women, touching 1,000 women with your community. Is it too big or too small? Like, is the number? The thing about the number is that it feels too comfortable for you. And it also, but the funny thing is the jokey side of the Oracle, which I always love, is she's like, but you can talk to one person and reach 1,000 people. Like, this is a game we play. And one thing you said, which came up as you were talking, was the challenge with numbers is they can be self-sabotaging. And I do this, I've been doing this for 25 years now. And when I do my groups and we talk about like dates and numbers, this is the conversation we always have, which is when we pick a date, when we pick a number, it has to feel a little bit scary, like a little bit of a stretch, but it can't be so big it feels ridiculous. Right. And so, because then what you're really doing is you're automatically setting yourself up for failure, because you already don't believe it. It doesn't mean that, so it's not, and then people ask me like, well, should I do this number, that number? I'm like, the number is not the important piece of this. So 2 pieces I get is, for you, that number feels like, the sense I get is it's doable, and yet not enough. It's like, yeah, that's a really nice number and it's a stretch. And to clarify for yourself, and you can tell me how this lands, clarify for yourself, why 1,000? And are you talking about reach, or are you talking about individuals?
I mean individuals.
Okay, good. So if you're talking about individuals, thank you for clarifying, because it's like there's the difference. And that's not just for you, that's for everybody. When we talk about numbers, I like to remind everybody, I'm a law of attraction master, and I always say, like, the universe is always listening, and we're not always giving it the message we want to give it. So to know when we're giving it a number, that the number really has some grounding in our own aligned sense of what we're wanting or hoping to achieve. And so if it's 1,000 women that you're individually working with in some fashion, it sounds like through all the opportunities you're creating, rather than 10 people who now go out and help 100 people each, right? So ask yourself if what that 1,000 number represents to you. Like, how will you know when you've succeeded? Is it literally like, oh, we've had our 1,000th person register for blah, 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 right? Or is it that you stand up and look out and you see the faces and they've had some sort of impact? Which of those feels like it's more engaging to your spirit?
I think the first one,
Okay.
because to me, that is more of community ongoing. It speaks to me as an ongoing and not a one-off. That was the first thing I thought of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and that's it. Like it's community, it's building. So you're seeing yourself kind of reaching a milestone. That's the
Right.
word, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So as long as it's not the end, I think that's what
Right.
she's trying to get to. It's like it needs to be a milestone, not a not a finish line.
Right.
Yeah. So I think if you can hold that vision of it being like an up leveling milestone for you, that you can hold that from that place, knowing that it's just a dot on the line and you're moving on. That feels much more aligned than just like some random, you know, number pulled from like, oh, $1,000 people feels like a good number, right? Do you see yourself creating, like you said, community? Do you see yourself creating partnerships, or how do you envision yourself supporting community? That's what she's asking.
Well, I like group coaching.
Okay.
Like that's one area, like masterminds, just different way, but I see it in the reason I see groups and I'm not drawn to one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the mass and the impact and the reach. I'm just one person, one-on-one. I just, so it's always going to be like, it could be, speaking to groups. It could be group coaching. It could be, different masterminds, just always a community, even a Facebook community where we're discussing and chatting and I'm there for them, membership group. I have a membership group, just ways that I can be in the
big blue corporate kind of feeling stage, not really corporate, but that's what just comes to my mind. And it feels more like a seminar or your center stage. And that's coming up right here. So as those of you who are watching, for me, when I get insights for clients, it's tactical, it's tactile. I get flushes from the Oracle for like we're on target. And if it's a vision for you, it will show up in one of three places. It'll show up here if it's like current time. Future paced things usually show up out to my right, and then up here is like the past or to the left. And I'm seeing this kind of really just plopped down. So I don't know if you're already in the process of looking to be on a stage, but it feels like, as you said, stage, like, yeah, like that's something that's in your near 6 month ish, heavy on the ish future. And so I think that might be whether that's your stage or someone else's, that you're talking to a larger group and you're on stage. So that may be part of how you move on. I was just double checking because I suddenly remembered you'd said something about being in public office, and it's not that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm done with that.
Like, that's done now, right? Okay.
I'm done with that.
Like, that's not what it is, right? Okay. So yeah, so it's definitely like it's more like it's some sort of weekend event or something, and you're in the middle of speaking. So I don't know if how does that land for you? What is that?
No, that's great. I'm actually, I'm in the middle of planning, a cruise in a year, but I'm doing an online summit at the end of April. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So, just a couple things on your calendar now. Just a couple. This feels like something where you're do you belong to like an organization, either, well, of not like coaches necessarily, but
I am
like a trade organization or business organization.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels more like that. You're a guest speaker here in this scene.
Okay.
So if you haven't yet, the suggestion might be then to start looking out to people that you know in that organization, to see about opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
how would that feel if that happened in the next 6 months?
That would feel amazing.
Okay.
That's like, I love to be on the stage.
Okay. I have to check because not everybody wants to be on stage. I'm like, hey, I just check.
I'm all over that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the image I'm getting is you're very like, it's funny because you're center stage and you're just tall and proud and standing up there and coming from power. So, is there any piece of this path that we've talked about that still puzzles you or you would like more insight around?
No, I think this makes a lot of sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You said your boys, okay, we have two things.
I have 2 girls and then I have a son.
So. Okay. Okay. 2 girls. Do you have a plan to travel or do you travel now do you go to events and travel now?
Every now and then. Yeah. I just got back from a retreat this weekend.
Okay. There's something coming through about travel and the children, and that could be, it's not really clear. It feels like tension around that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. Something. No, it's just like it's not really coming in clearly. It just was a hit that I got. It was just like the kids and travel. And I don't know whether, and it's coming up. It's not something from the past. So, maybe just
my son's getting married in a couple of weeks and we have to travel to it.
Okay. Yeah.
And he didn't put his sisters in the wedding, but we're dealing with that.
Okay. So there could be some tension.
But we're dealing with that.
Just deal with it.
We're dealing with that.
It was kind of funny because it came up like a little, I get like those little orange caution, like yellow lights. And I was like, this doesn't really make sense. And I was like, well, did she like travel before? Maybe they regret or whatever. But it was like, yeah, there's some tension there. So while you may be dealing with it, there might be somebody who's not. And just to be aware that there still seems to be a little tension around that travel and kids and stuff. I'm definitely getting a hit that's the thing. So she's like, yeah, that's it. So, I mean, I think that's just a bonus. I know that's not necessarily work related, but it's in your field right now. And for me, when the Oracle's looking at your field, the reason I call it in this process, the Oracle on purpose, is that's what she's trying to help me help you do. And so if there's something in the way of that, it's going to pop up. And it doesn't mean it's like huge in the way. So this is just like energetically in the way. So maybe it's just a sense to like, hey, be mindful now. So if it starts to become a thing, you're
right.
like, oh, guys, like we're going to be okay. And here's how we're going to deal with it. So that's just, I think, it's a way of kind of giving you a caution about a hiccup that may be coming. And I'm checking back in. Do you have any like you mentioned the cruise, and do you have any questions in regards to that? Does that feel like all settled?
Well, it was just an idea. I had to do a mastermind cruise in January of 2021. Okay. So it's like a kickoff new year. And it was just an idea I had. I hadn't really given much thought to whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. I hadn't even put any feelers out with anyone. It's just something that felt right, or felt like a good idea.
But. Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it's interesting because you mentioned it. I get what I would say is like, this is not, and so everybody's listening. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. I don't get any hit around it, which just made me that it's so far out of this, like right now, that it's not really in the target zone, right. Which is also good. So there's like no warnings coming up around that either. So it's just kind of nice. Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to ask before we kind of wrap up, or How are you feeling about this?
No, I just wanted to, I do my target audience, because it feels so right, are the creatives, the people that create and plan. And, does that feel good? I don't really want to go, niche down anymore. I really don't. I like to stay with the creatives,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I getting,
Yeah. It's interesting. I think when you say, so tell me a little bit more so I can clarify. When you say creatives,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like coaches, graphic designers, course creators, bloggers, people that actually, not necessarily artists or quilters, those type of, but
okay.
Yeah.
So here's the challenge though. And remember we talked about before, like the messaging and the static.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, here's the funny thing. It's not so much that you have to niche down. It's clarity of the niche.
Okay.
So the thing that just came was content creators. Although coaches seem to stand out. So, but coaches do create content. So that would kind of apply. So that's just what came. So take that as you will. It's like, it's not, the creatives wasn't narrow enough, not because it's creatives, but because it's like what kinds, because I think that message could be confusing.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether that's for you, like, oh, is it content creators? And then maybe the subtitle is like a little bit more of a disclaimer of who those people are. But if I'm a content creator, I'll know I'm a content creator.
Right.
But if I don't consider my content creation creativity, then I'm not going to see myself as creative necessarily.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah. So she was like, because when you said creative, it's like, I was like, no. I'm like, okay. But I think it's because it's like the first piece of that. So however that feels to you, you can play with that word, but it's like some sort of disclaimer about what kind of creative you're speaking to.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I had to chuckle because she's like, oh, she's going to have to niche down. She's like, love that. You're like, I don't want to. I'm like, yeah, usually when people say that, it's like, guess what? But this one was easy, and it's not, and it really is. It's more like a fine tuning rather than like scrap it and start over or go way deep.
Good.
Yeah. So that was a great question, because I would say that to everyone. So that's really good. I really appreciate your question, because people, as you're listening to this, niche. I know people get sick of it, especially people that have been in the marketing world for a while. It's like you hear it all the time, and it feels like so constrictive, and yet clarity of message comes from languaging that speaks to the people that are looking for what you have to offer. And ultimately, for me, like, because I'm so committed to everybody fulfilling their purpose, like anything that's getting in the way of that is a problem. It has to be resolved. So if you're out there and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I feel like just like Leslie, I'm doing the same thing and I don't want to, it's just give yourself permission. Ask, is there a way that you can narrow, not necessarily niche down, but narrow who that niche is in a framework that they will relate to. And I know I'm speaking to the choir because that's something that I've done over the years, in all these years, but that is something that I love that you brought that up, because that is a good question. And the thing is, there are so many people in the universe, and we are in a world right now where we have this fantastic tool to talk to people everywhere. You and I are across the country from each other, and there are people across the world. So it's like sometimes people get to the idea of like, I don't want to niche because then I won't find anybody. Like it'll get too small. Like the clearer it is, the more people you will find that are ready and looking for that thing. And it's just, it gives you the more flexibility. But I do understand that the people go through that process. So that was a great question, because I know someone else is going to get that and go, yep, that's me. Yeah, me too. So thank you so much. I would love, we're going to we're doing it right now so I don't forget. I'm going to get a link up now so that you guys can all learn more about what Leslie's up to and stay in touch. Leslie, you want to tell them a little bit about the link that you sent me that we're going to share with them here?
Yeah, so it is the 3-step community, and I actually have a name change, but that's a big unveiling. So that's where we actually put into place our 3-step strategy. We have life challenges, we have motivation. I am November, every day in November, I'm going live to keep us motivated and keep us going and not shut down for the year. We still have 9 weeks left of the year.
We're ramping up, right?
Yes, I always focus on what the time we have and not what we don't have. I'm always looking at what we have and don't have. And so it's just a great group, and we just motivate each other. We work on our 3 steps, and sometimes we have to give ourselves a little grace.
Grace. I love it. Well, thank you. You have been absolutely graceful to have on the show. I appreciate you so much. And I love what you're up to and helping people. And I hope that you guys do come check out her group on Facebook and learn more about her. When we do post the replay, you'll also get the link to her website if you want to check her out even further. Thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Awesome. All right. Bye, everybody. I don't see any. I'm double checking actually before I hang up because, make sure we don't miss anybody. Okay, great. So I don't have any questions tonight, and all the hashtags came from me. So I get the prize. No, but come on back. I'm going to go ahead and let Miss Leslie off the screen here and just share really quickly before we finish up that if you would like to be a guest, or if you come or watch the replay and you're like, man, I had a question, you can come back. Don't worry, we'll be here next week. And when we come back next week, you'll be able to ask your own questions. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can come and register yourself. So it's really easy. Just go to bit.ly/OLTV-guest, and you can fill out your form, register to be a guest. We have some spaces coming up actually in November and December, so you could do it this year. There's a big change coming to Oracle Live TV coming in January, so this is a teaser to that. So if you want to get in and take advantage of the situation and the setup we have now, please do so, because we're about to really take Oracle Live TV to the next level, and we'll be making some changes about guests and things like that. So if you want to come in, be a guest, it's absolutely free. You can come and share what you're up to. Tell us about your passion and your purpose and what you're doing to serve the world. And we'll go ahead and support you, share your name, share your work with the world, and you might even get a little insight from the Oracle. All right, that's it for me tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for those of you watching the replay. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next Wednesday for Oracle Live TV. Bye now.